Good afternoon, ladies and gentlemen. Our objective today is to build some background on The Crucible by Arthur Miller. We have been talking all year long about how literature reflects society, and we're going to see it in this play as well. I will be giving you some information on some slides. Then I will ask you to deal with your graphic organizer. We will fill in some character development on your graphic organizer. The next slides I will ask you to work with a partner and build some background on basic plot structure. And then finally I have some independent practice that you will need to do about drama in particular. The Crucible consists of Puritanism, witchcraft, McCarthyism, and we know that the author is Arthur Miller. Puritanism began in the 1600s with the Christians that were originally from England. They believed in predestination. They split from the Church of England in 1633. They emigrated to the American colonies, and their radical beliefs flourished in the New World. Let's talk a little bit about witchcraft in Salem. Like all Puritans, the residents of the Salem village believed in witches and in witchcraft. They believed that witchcraft was entering into a pact with the devil in exchange for certain powers to do evil. They considered witchcraft both a sin and a crime. It was a very serious accusation which was carefully and thoroughly investigated. So at this time, because they didn't understand science and technology, they relied on it being witches and witchcraft. And the definition of witchcraft is entering into a pact with the devil in exchange for certain powers to do evil. The witchcraft hysteria began in Salem, Massachusetts in early 1692. Reverend Samuel Parris's daughter and Abigail Williams started having fits, screaming, and hallucinations, and a doctor that examined the girls concluded that the only explanation for this bizarre behavior was witchcraft. And a recently published book at the time detailed the symptoms of witchcraft, which were described in the book. The girls had those particular symptoms. Therefore, the Puritans of Salem were quick to believe the doctor's diagnosis. The doctor is basing his diagnosis on this book and on the girls' symptoms. The girls then pointed their fingers at Tituba, who is Parris's servant, also Sarah Good and Sarah Osborne, and this sparked the witch hunt. The thing that you need to know about Tituba is that she is from Barbados, and she is a foreigner. She is not one of them, and therefore they use her as a scapegoat. They blame everything on her. During the next 8 months of terror, more than 150 people were imprisoned for witchcraft. By the time the court was dismissed, 27 people had been convicted, 19 hanged, and 1 pressed to death. The hysteria that snowballed in Salem revealed how deep the belief in the supernatural ran in colonial America. So this affected a lot of people's lives. 150 were imprisoned, and ultimately 20 of those lost their lives for these accusations. So the question becomes, well, what does that have to do with modern times? We should learn our lesson from history. This happened in 1692, but 350 years later, along comes Joseph McCarthy. McCarthyism is a term used to describe a period of intense suspicion in the U.S. during the early 50s. It began when Senator Joseph McCarthy, a U.S. Senator from Wisconsin, claimed that communists had infiltrated the Department of State. A special House committee on un-American activities was formed to investigate allegations of communism. During this period, people of all walks of life became subjects of aggressive witch hunts, often based on inconclusive, questionable evidence. So there was no concrete evidence, yet these people were accused of being communist. People accused of being communists were often denied employment in both public and private sectors. In the film industry alone, over 300 actors, writers, and directors were denied work in the U.S. Even Arthur Miller, he was one that was alleged to have been blacklisted. McCarthy's influence finally faltered in 1954 when a famous CBS newsman, Edward R. Murrow, aired an investigative news report which revealed McCarthy as dishonest in his speech and abusive in his interrogation of witnesses. The public was finally made aware of how McCarthy was ruining the reputations of many individuals through false accusations and of communism. So the media was the one to reveal the problems with McCarthy.